Of a different Sunday morning because the clocks, yeah, they sprung forward. So right now it is 8 a.m. But for many of you, it probably feels like it's 7 a.m. because yesterday it was. Here we are, and thanks for everybody that's going to join us throughout this half-hour little garden Q&A, where we're going to talk a little bit about your garden, answer some of the garden questions, and also talk about what's going on in the world of gardening. For those that don't know me, a little introduction. My name is Frank Ferragini, aka Frankie Flowers of City TV's Breakfast Television, and of course, City Line. You can see me there Monday through Friday, where I do the weather. I always say I'm wild about weather. I'm passionate about plants. I'm a 4-time best-selling garden author. I have a lifetime of experience growing plants, everything from farming to gardening to landscaping. Won a few different awards, and also just going to say, there's the first shout out of the morning. Got to say that as well. There's the first shout out of the morning from Lisa as well. Lisa, you're up. Lisa's up too. Let's see how many people get up today. Okay, so that's a little bit about me. A time change. The reason why we're at this spring forward moment is indeed we can see that our daylight hours are getting longer. Because daylight hours are getting longer, we're not gardening yet outdoors, but we are indoors. We have a lot of plants. So now a lot of our indoor plants, because the daylight hours are just getting that much more longer, they're going to need a little additional watering. As well, when daylight hours get longer, plants start to actively grow more inside. And because they are actively growing inside more, you're going to need some fertilizer. This is actually an orchid fertilizer, but there's an indoor tropical plant food that Miracle Grow does as well. So just a reminder that now, because daylight hours are longer, you got to increase indoor watering. And also I would recommend fertilizing at least once a month to twice a month, which would be the best thing for you to do as well. Paula Polly, good morning, my good friend Paula. How are you this morning? We got that. We have a long thing here. Let's see what this is. Oh, here we go. Jocelyn, USA, UK, Canada, and Australian exotic plant lovers, a community set aside for plant lovers to flaunt and get small talks on how to maintain their plants and even some more to the cabinet. Follow the link below. Okay, so there's somebody trying to get some links below and getting them to kind of join up, which is good too. Hey, this is a community, and this is a community where we can all get together. There's Vera this morning saying good morning as well. Miriam, which is one of our people that joins us every week, and one of my friends. She's from Dallas, Texas today. Good morning. I'm doing great this morning. Ashley up in Aurelia this morning. I hope you're there. Good morning. So excited to see spring flowers starting to emerge. Any advice on indoor eucalyptus? Thanks for all your knowledge and time. So eucalyptus is, of course, a plant, a tropical plant that, if there's something that one of my favorite, here you go. I'm a candle guy. And one of my favorite candles in terms of is eucalyptus and mint. So the smell of eucalyptus is absolutely fantastic. To grow eucalyptus indoors, you can buy it as smaller plants, and you can buy it as an indoor plant. The biggest thing is air humidity. It's something that does need humidity in the air, and that's the biggest challenge for growing inside and indoors of the eucalyptus. So if you have a dry home, it's going to be a challenge. I would just mist it at least twice a month. Forgive me, even once a week. A little bit of misting would be very helpful. It needs to be in a bright room. I would put it outside in part shade during the summer months, and then bring it in, of course, before frost. That would happen as well. There's a good morning to Vera this morning. Good morning to you. Marlene, good morning as well from Mississauga. We got a good morning as well from Brampton out there as well. Just want to give a shout out as well to all those that came to the home show yesterday. I was speaking at the National Home Show. Of course, the National Home Show at the Enercare Center in Toronto runs from March the 10th to March the 19th. I'm only speaking the one day, only spoke the one day, which is March the 11th, but that show continues to go on. For those that are thinking about maybe attending, I still have some tickets to give away, and I've been doing it at random. What I've been doing at random is I've been looking at everybody that's joined the newsletter, and those that have joined the newsletter, I want to show you a little example of the website that you can find out how to join the newsletter. Those that join the newsletter have that chance to win the tickets as well. So just a little bit of a feature on the website for this month. I know a lot of people out there are thinking about growing their own seeds. So growing vegetables, an early spring checklist. This is some of the different tips and tricks for you to get out there and start thinking about growing vegetables, and also a little bit about some of the steps that you should think about when growing vegetables, even when to plant some of those crops indoors and which ones to start outdoors. And as well, a lot of my content a lot of the things that I put together also include, we can go all the way down with seed starting, and there's a whole bunch of pictures, but also you'll find some interesting different recipes that I love to call garden to table. So that's just a little bit that's there. But also on the website, you can go down to the very bottom and you can see at any time, you can just join the newsletter. There's the newsletter. Just go to frankieflowers.com to join. So for all those that joined me at the home show, thank you very much. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about a question. And that question that I had was sent to me by email, but it's a question that I want to answer here as well, is because the question was, and it was by Robin, and Robin said, with seed starting soil, should each and every year, should I use new soil when I'm seed starting? So the answer is yes, you should be using new soil. The reason why I would recommend for you to use new soil is I'm going to feature this here, and we're going to go to another blog post. This post here is by the University of Minnesota, and that's because of seedling damping off. So damping off is a common disease that happens in seeds. And what'll happen is the seeds germinate, you'll start to see them rot. And a lot of the times they rot. And you can see in this picture right here, just at the bottom stems, right where they come out of the soil, those stems start to shrivel up and the plant starts to fall over. So this is damping off. One reason why you're getting damping off is you're receiving damping off because you're using older soil or you haven't sterilized the pots. So when you're starting seeds, you want to, with a weak little dilution of bleach, you want to wash your pots. You want to wash your trays, anything that you're using, and you want to use new soil. That'll make sure that none of the potential fungus that is caused by damping off is there. The other thing that we want to do is cut back on some watering. If these plants have damping off and all of a sudden you see that you're getting that rotting, there's nothing that we can do to correct. We have to start over again. So the main way to prevent it, clean all those, if you're using older trays from last year, older containers from last year, wash them down with bleach, allow that to dry out. It's just a little bit of bleach that you're going to be putting in water, wiping them down or even soaking them, and then new seed starting soil. I use the Miracle Grow seed starting soil, but that was to answer that question there. So we had the good morning from Brantford this morning. We got Sharon Lloyd out there this morning that's also saying good morning as well. Patty is saying good morning this morning from Halliburton out there. We have another shout out from Keswick this morning. Look at this. I'm loving this. We got another shout out from Victoria Harbor. Good morning to you. And my good friend Matthew Amos, good morning as well. So we talked a little bit about seed starting. And so now we're getting into prime time for seed starting. So we always talk about a lot of the times on the back of the seed packs, they're telling us when we should be starting them. And the bulk of seeds are generally between 6 to 8 weeks, starting before last frost date, and 4 to 6 weeks. We're starting to get near the range of 6 to 8 weeks. So definitely this is the week to start tomatoes. This is the week to be starting, or you have already started your pepper plants that are out there. And then there's some many annuals that you can start. You can also think about propagating. Propagating, of course, is done by stem cutting. So we're removing a piece of a plant and propagating. For instance, with this jade, what I would do is I would actually just take one of the leaves on the side here, this little guy that's right here. For a jade plant, what you have to do is you actually have to leave this out. We're going to leave that out for about a day or 2 days. What happens is the bottom of that jade right here then becomes calloused. And when it's calloused, then I'm just going to simply stick that into soil, a potting soil. And we can even put a little bit of a plastic hoop over it. So even if we were just to wrap it in cellophane over the top, but not let it touch, leave it there for 3 weeks. But after 2 weeks, you're going to remove that little plastic hood and boom, you have new plants. So we can do propagation. What I wanted to say, if you're interested more in propagation, I'm going to share my screen again because I want to give a shout out to my good friends at the Royal Botanical Gardens. Of course, you guys know if you've been following me, I am one of the board members on the Royal Botanical Gardens. But coming up on Saturday, March the 25th, is a complete course on propagation. It's a 2-hour length. You got to pre-register for this. It's a ticketed event, and it's going to be a fee of $55, but it's an interactive class where you're going to learn all about, and you're going to be learning from Chris, which is one of the head of propagation of RBG. So you're going to be in the greenhouse learning about how to propagate, which is something that's a great thing to learn overall. And even though it's going to be a little bit of a cost to go do, At the end of the day, you're going to save a bunch of money because you're going to know how to propagate your own plants. Sarah is giving us a shout out this morning from Florida. Good morning to you in Florida. We got another comment here. Good morning, Frankie. This is from Lori. Have you ever heard of putting cut potato face down in a pot to get rid of gnats? It's supposed to attract the larvae to the top. I'm overwintering rosemary, and it worked at drawing the larvae to the top to eat the potato. But I'm still. She's probably. Let me see if I can read it over here. I'm not going to show it. Rosemary, and it worked at drawing larvae to use the potato, but I'm still using sticky strips, and I'm still catching the gnats. I haven't heard about using the potato, but it does make some sense to draw some of them up. The other part too is, so the yellow sticky trap. So when using a yellow sticky trap, that's catching the adult fungus gnat. So by catching the adult fungus gnat, it's not going to be able to then lay some larvae, lay some eggs. What we can do too is by cutting back on the watering of your plant and allowing that rosemary to dry out, then all the soil in the soil won't be moist enough to allow the larvae, those eggs, to hatch. Dusting the surface of your soil with cinnamon also will prevent the larvae and will also kill off some of those eggs and the larvae themselves. So what I would do is a combination of using the sticky strips, maybe using the potato, but also dusting with a little bit of cinnamon. And as well, what I'd be doing is cutting back on your watering. And that would be an epic solution for you to take care of there. Good morning from Curtis this morning. Krista Allen, good morning to you. Snow, 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 snow. Peggy Simmons, touch of snow overnight in Thunder Bay. We got more snow on the way in Southern Ontario as well that we could see on Sunday, but even into Monday. March has been an incredibly snowy month overall. The good thing about snow, of course, is it's an insulator. The difficulty with much of the snow that we received, it's been heavy, wet snow. So it's actually bent a lot of plants over. If that's happened, if you see a cedar bent over, you see, even if you had some hydrangeas and you didn't remove the flower heads and you left them up and then you're now seeing them bent over, go shake them off. Snow, when it melts, is going to be an early provider of moisture. My biggest fear is where some areas where we have a lot of snow is if we go into a rapid warm up, that's when we're going to get into flooding. So I'm thinking for Southern Ontario, when I look at the long range forecast, after this week, there's no more significant snow that I see. We'll still see some wet snow, possibility of freezing rain easily into mid-April, just to kind of give you that out there. What will spring be like? I will tell you next summer. I'll tell you in the summer what spring was like, because there's no way, you can't predict it. We got a shout out this morning from Seagrave this morning as well. Margot from Perry Sound, good morning to you. Margot, what I would recommend, if you look onto Stocky Center, the Stocky Center, which is a great, amazing venue. If you live close to Perry Sound, you want to come up for a great event, which is happening, I believe, on May the 7th, Sunday, May the 7th. I'll be up there speaking, celebrating the anniversary of the Stocky Center. I'm going to be talking a little bit of fun about kind of why I think some gardeners are crazy. It's kind of my comedic way of kind of looking at the world of what a gardener will do to create good gardens. But at the same time, you're going to learn some tips and tricks and some of the things that gardeners have done in the past, the reasons behind them, and why if your neighbor's an avid gardener, you may be like, I don't know if I can trust my neighbor. Yeah. Good morning from Hamilton Mountain. What a beautiful place Hamilton Mountain is. Look at this. Philly telling us that in Windsor, the crocuses are out. So crocus, of course, spring flowering bulb. It's one of the first things that pop out of even the lawn and or garden as a true representation of spring, sometimes busting its way through the soil as well. Other ones are things like scilla, even some of the grape hyacinths will be some of those early signs of spring color. And that is so exciting. That's out there as well. Thanks for sharing that. It'd be great to see a picture. Frankie at frankieflowers.com. Good morning, Frankie from St. Catharines. Good morning to you. We got a question here or a comment about tulips, Savatia. My tulip bulbs were started indoors, yet they're taking too long to grow. What should I do? So your tulip bulbs, if they were started indoors, they need to go through a plunge period. So what you're going to see is when you buy spring flowering bulbs, sometimes you'll see on the package, which means they'll say prepared and they'll say for indoor forcing. If they're a prepared bulb, it means that they've already put those bulbs through a plunge period. What a plunge period means is they're almost mimicking what it would be like outdoors. So a bulb right now outdoors is planted in the soil, so it's dark and it's cold. So if we are going to force a bulb indoors, we got to put it somewhere where it can be dark and cold, ideally in soil. So if it's planted in the pot, if you were to put it down, if you had a cantina or a fruit cellar, you put it down there for 3 to 4 weeks. If you have a garage that doesn't really freeze, you can put it in a garage, but it's got to be a dark space that is around the freezing mark, and it has to be there for at least 3 weeks. And then that will put them through their plunge period, which will then trigger them because they're like, oh, I just went through winter, and they're a spring flowering bulb. That'll trigger them into bloom or trick them into bloom. We got a shout out this morning from Kawartha Lakes, which is a beautiful, beautiful spot. Paula, good morning, Paula. My geraniums are getting very leggy. Most have their second leaves and are about 1.5 inches tall. Should I just leave them and let them be for now? Yes, I would do. I would let them be. I would allow them to get more leaves that are on there, and then you'll start to pinch. If they're getting leggy, they're probably stretching towards the light. So even if they're growing and you see that they're getting leggy and growing one way, always remember to rotate that pot and or that tray of your geraniums. So then that way they'll be more even. If you can put them closer to a bright window, really key. If you want, Paula, even just get a full spectrum grow light, just get a cheaper LED one that's on like an Amazon and just put it a little bit closer to the geraniums. Make sure that now that they're into their second leaves, you can start cutting back on the moisture and allowing them to dry out. That's allowing what geranium will grow slower if it has a little bit of light closer to it. And it also has a little less water because your stretching sometimes is that it could be just too much water as well. Good morning from Beaton. Good morning to you there. And what you'll do, Paula, is once they get into the range of about 5 to 7 leaves, then you'll consider to start pinching. And by pinching, we're actually, what I just did there, some people will pinch to propagate, but a lot of times you're pinching just so that instead of having the one stem that comes up and you're getting leggy, by doing some pinching back, removing some of those leaves, then all of a sudden you're going to cause it to create some break points, and those break points will make it a more bushy, fuller geranium that's out there. Janet, good morning from your green thumb and Curtis. I love that as well. Curtis, great little area just east of the city of Toronto. Good morning, Frankie from Penetang on the shorelines of Georgian Bay. Good morning to you as well. Bill Kennedy. Bill, good morning, and so glad we spring ahead. Yes. How do you feel about time change? We have some wild grapes in our yard. For the past 2 years, they have produced a lot of ripe grapes, but they are rock hard. The birds don't eat them. Any suggestions? Thank you. So the wild grapes themselves, they can put on an ornamental, but not an edible grape. And it does sound like the grapes that they're putting on is not an edible variety of grape. So it's ornamentally putting on a seed. So those grapes are really just a seed. So it's just a seed pod. If you think about a grape, inside the grape is indeed seeds. And so that outer layer is the protection of the seeds that are there. So some of those outer layers are wonderful, great for tasting. It'd be great to see a picture of the wild grape itself, because to see if it is indeed one that can be dried, and by it being dried, then you can actually extract some of the moisture that's there. And that's where you're getting some of the dessert wine. Sometimes you're getting an ice wine, but you can get a dessert wine. But some grape plants will produce what appears to be a grape, but that is indeed still a grape seed production, but not edible. So that's kind of the suggestion. If you truly want grapes, then you're going to want to go look at some of the Concord varieties of grapes and some of the more edible varieties of grapes that are there as well. We got a shout out to the Port Colborne Garden Club this morning. That's from Connie. Good morning to you. Good morning to all garden clubs. Hey, if you are a member of a garden club, Hort Society, and you do have an event coming up, please let me know. Just send that to Frankie at frankieflowers.com, Frankie at frankieflowers.com. Even if it's just like a little bit of a picture, or you have a poster, or even just some of the information, I'll put them on my Facebook page. I'll even put them into sometimes my website, my newsletter. I'll talk about them here, because then we can get more people involved doing more things and learning more about gardening. And that's what the whole goal is for me to be out there to motivate, to get people to just try to grow something, to maybe make their garden a little bit better, to laugh at themselves if things don't work out. Because sometimes, like gardening is like life, not everything works out. Yeah, I have a dead soldier, by the way. got to tell you, my succulent that's in here, not doing so well. Not doing so well. I usually have great success with succulents. That pot there, that little terrarium, I didn't do my drainage. I didn't do well in my drainage. Kathy, LOL. I'm overwintering my rosemary too, and it didn't really well. I've let it dry out between as you recommended, LOL. Except that I guess I forgot because it's now dead. Oops. Yeah. Allowing a plant to dry out is a good thing, especially rosemary inside if you're doing the overwintering. And it did do very well. The thing that really with rosemary is it does like somewhat more drier feet, but it still enjoys humidity. So the occasional misting of a rosemary indoors is really, really important. My rosemary is still living, which is it's a bigger pot. It's in my kitchen, right in front of my sliding doors, which are, basically big windows, lots of light, tons of light. And then at the same time, as I'm giving it occasional misting, and I was watering it, and if I am watering it, as little as once a month. Now I will increase the watering because we're a little bit longer daylight hours that are there as well. Johnny, good morning, Frankie from Peterborough. Thanks for the home show tickets, Frankie. We enjoyed the show yesterday. Awesome, Johnny. I'm glad that you guys enjoyed the show that's there. And once again, if you join the newsletter, that's your chance to get entered in to win another 10 pairs of tickets. So those 10 pairs of tickets, I'll be giving those away this week, and they will be for the show for next week, or during this week. So once again, the National Home Show runs from March the 10th to March the 19th. Some of the other upcoming events that I will be doing is the Spring Cottage Life Show, where I'll be talking about low impact gardens. Once again, up in Parry Sound, I'll be at the Stocky Center. The Stocky Center, I'll be talking about the wild and wacky world of gardeners and why I think gardeners can be a little bit crazy. I have some online events that will be coming up just right now, kind of solidifying and kind of ironing out some of the times and details with Calgary Horticultural Society. I'll be doing an online event with them. And of course, every Friday, every Sunday, that is, at 8 o'clock, you can join me here on the Garden Q&As. And then Monday through Friday, you can see me on Breakfast Television, where I'm always there talking about the weather and the plants. Heather Fellows, good morning to you all too. Debbie, another shout out there to her from Ajax this morning. And then Matthew, who's the avid film lover, Matthew. And Matthew has the most autographs that I've ever seen. And Matthew, I've not seen Creed 3 yet. I saw it on Creed 3 on Friday. I love all the Creed movies, all the Rocky movies, but I have not seen it yet. We got a good morning from my hometown in big old Bradford. Janine White, my good friend Janine, that's there. Morning, Janine. Now, Karen, good morning, Frankie. What's a good seed to plant indoors or outdoors for Earth Day? Well, this is a great question. So with Earth Day, we're celebrating the Earth. So just getting kids involved. So let's say that we're getting a child involved in Earth Day and we want to do something as an activity for them. So what we want to do is we want to select something that has a larger seed, so it's easier for them to handle, and that has a quick germination. So probably one of the easiest seeds for kids to start indoors are beans. Super easy, really fun for them to watch and grow. And if they're doing it for around Earth Day, they can then keep them indoors and they'll be able to plant them outside. Marigolds is something else that's an easy, quick germinating plant for people to do indoors and then plant outdoors. If we're going to plant outdoors and we want to plant something, if it's a seed and or a plant, for Earth Day, I would really suggest anything that's going to do with native plants and or pollinating plants for our pollinators. Probably one of the keys that I would really recommend is echinacea, which is the coneflower. You could also use anything like rudbeckia. Sometimes they're really good, but they do get a little bit out of the way. But really, the coneflower, which is echinacea, is a perfect Earth Day. Trees are something that are always great for Earth Day to do for planting, but just being outdoors and being active and teaching kids lessons about nature and why they should enjoy nature are some of the best things. So I hope I answered your question there. Here's another question. Can I fertilize my indoor plants now? They say yes. Helen, indeed, because now that daylight is longer, we're getting into extended periods of daylight hours. And now that we have the spring forward, so we know daylight hours are longer, now plants are actually growing. We're starting to see our indoor plants put on new leaves. Now is the time to fertilize. And you should be fertilizing an indoor plant. And the reason why you should be fertilizing an indoor plant is that they are in a soilless mix. So there's really no nutrient there. There's no decay that's happening. So they really will benefit and really require the fertilizing. We got another shout out this morning from Brighton, Ontario. Good morning to you as well. We got a big shout out this morning to one of my favorite places, PEI. Phyllis, Prince Edward Island is just such a lovely, lovely place. Me too, asking a question about bonsai. My bonsai tree leaves are turning brown. What should I do? So it depends. Like with bonsai, there are many different varieties of plants for bonsai. Sometimes if it's an evergreen, it's usually a juniper. Sometimes your bonsai could actually even be a jade. Sometimes the bonsai themselves can be a tropical plant. So without knowing what type of bonsai you have, that's my challenge. Often, if they're turning brown, the reason why plants' leaves are turning brown is a sign of stress. Stress can be everything from too much water, too little water, lack of humidity inside your home, not enough light, being too close to a heating vent, maybe being too close to a fireplace. So what I would ask you is to take a picture of that bonsai, and then you're going to send that picture to me, Frankie with an IE at frankieflowers.com. Then what we can do is kind of determine what it is, but also take a picture of where you have your bonsai, and we can figure if we can figure out what's going on and what's making that wrong. The other part too is if your bonsai is planted in a pot with no drainage, that can be causing it to get root rot. So we got to figure out what the cause is, what the stress is. Good morning from Copetown. Good morning to you, Valerie. Thank you so much. I won 2 tickets for the National Home Show. Boom, 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 boom. You are welcome. That's the whole idea. I'm going to try to, this year I've been working with even my friends at Scott's Miracle Grow. I've been working with some of my friends at many other different places. That the job that I've been trying to do is to make sure that if you're joining me on the Facebook Live, if you're joining the newsletter, there's going to be some things that we can actually give you some giveaways. Make it some fun, right? Because everybody loves to even something as simple as a pair of tickets. You know, the National Home Show, the cost of those tickets is about, I think they're about $23 or $24 each. So 2 tickets is in the range of almost $50. So that's a good savings there. Michelle, good morning from Windsor, Ontario. Good morning to you. We got Cheryl that's here with her coffee. I'm having tea right now. I'm going to have my first coffee after this. We got a good morning from Aruba from Bob Foster. Bob always watches your show. Hey, Bob, I'm going to tell you, my parents just came home last night from Aruba. I've never been to Aruba. I've been to many, many places. Heather, my good friend Heather, who joins us often. I want to grow hops, not for making beer, just for ornament, the ornamental. I love the plant. Would you know where I can get some? I tried a few nurseries last year and they didn't know. So you can buy some hops online. So you can actually even buy some seeds and some smaller plants online themselves. There are many nurseries that will carry hops, and some microbreweries, some of the craft breweries, you can actually inquire with them. Some of them that will be growing their own hops and will have hops for sale. I know down in the Niagara region, I've seen hops for sale, even at some of the local nurseries that are down there. Down in Prince Edward County, I've seen them for sale. I've seen them on occasion for sale at certain nurseries, but the best thing to do is just to search online, and I think that would be the best way for you to get your hops. There are some different varieties of hops, so just make sure that you're paying attention to hardiness zone on the variety that you are selecting. Hops, of course, is a big plant that will need support, almost a vine-like plant. So wherever you're growing it, you will need something to support that plant overall. We got another shout out, and this is going to be, well, we're going to do a couple more questions. Watching from cold Ensmore, Ontario. Ensmore is not that cold, guys. We got another question here this morning from Valerie. My white cactus is going on 3 years and has not bloomed yet. 2020 hasn't worked. Cold, dark room didn't work. Direct sun didn't work. So is this a Christmas cactus? If it is a Christmas cactus, what I would really recommend for you is to try to trigger it in the bloom. I'm going to do something totally different this year. As soon as we see that frost warnings are done outside, so we're in mid to late May, we're going to take that white cactus, I'm assuming it's a Christmas cactus or a forest variety cactus. You're going to take that and you're going to put it outside. You're going to put it in an area where there's part sun, so either morning sun or it's underneath an area where it's just still getting some filtered light by a tree, but not in full direct sun. What we're going to do is we're going to keep it out there. You're going to water it. You may even want to repot it once. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep it out until mid to late September, just before frost. We're going to bring it inside to your house. Then inside your home, you're going to put it in a room. That room will have a window, but it's going to be maybe a spare bedroom where you're not going in at night. And that light just basically gets the natural light of the day, but then natural darkness. Hopefully that room gets a little bit cooler at night. Cut backing on your water at that time. So you're allowing it to dry in between watering. As we get closer to October, November, you should actually see it set its buds. Then once the buds are set, then you can move it into a room where you can enjoy it. And then they should be set in flowers. That's probably one of the easiest way to get Christmas cactus to force them into bloom. So Christmas cactus bloom based on shortness of days. So they're triggered by daylight hours. And they do need a cooler evening temperature versus the daytime temperature, which is the best way to trigger them in. Overwatering won't allow them to trigger, and you don't need fertilizer. So when we're bringing them in, you can fertilize them during the summer months, but when we bring them in mid to late September, we're not fertilizing at that time. I'm going to take one more question or one more comment that's there. This is a shout out once again to Bob Foster. I'm working on a project now, putting in a garden plots for seniors, getting them out to plant and look after it. Bob, that's great because Bob, of course, gardening is an outdoor leisure activity that makes people feel better. Some of our seniors out there do need something that gives them purpose and at the same time will keep them active and gives them something to look forward to, like a beautiful tomato plant, which there's nothing like harvesting a tomato. And we got one last comment here from Debbie. I missed the Two Sisters Winery event info. So Debbie, we are still solidifying dates and times for Two Sisters. I will let you know when those events will be posted because they do sell out quickly. I'm actually going to make a note because I got to email them to see what is going on. So thank you for the reminder as well. So there you go. So that's going to be my final for today, guys. For all those that joined me today, thank you on a little bit earlier of a morning, even though it's late. Well, it's the same time. It's 8 a.m. But in terms of spring forward, let's hope that you woke up on time. Let's hope that you got still a little bit of a spring in your step. And as we spring forward to one of my favorite seasons, the favorite garden season, of course, of the year where we're full of excitement, let's just hope that this Sunday is great too, and that this Sunday is one that's filled with love, health, and happiness. To all those, have a blooming good Sunday.